Hey guys, we're top of the world, Laguna Beach just down there. An amazing day, so beautiful. Catalina Island in the background. This is the BULLS Copperhead Evo AM4 750 with the Bosch Smart System. So 750 watt-hour battery, the Performance Line CX motor. Again, smart system. This stuff isn't backwards compatible with some of the older Bosch systems. So for example, the PowerTube 500 or the PowerTube 625, you get a different app. It's the eBike Flow app with some really cool features. We'll get into that a little bit later. And we got the LED remote up front. So $64.99 on this bike. It's a little bit more expensive because it's top shelf for BULLS. This is an all-mountain model, so it's the AM with 150 millimeters of travel in the front and rear. Top of the line suspension from SR Suntour. You can see it's really beefy, 36 millimeter black anodized stanchions. Of course, we have boost hub spacing front and rear with a 15 millimeter thru-axle, 110 millimeter hub spacing. So you got a sturdier spoke bracing angle, and we can handle these plus size tires here. We've got the Schwalbe Magic Mary, and this is actually a mullet setup. So up in the front, these are 29ers, and in the rear, we have 27.5. So you're gonna be able to roll over obstacles more smoothly or through ruts. And we have been riding around here. There's a lot of like washed out sections. Having a little bit longer travel like this and having a lower attack angle, it just feels more comfortable. So the tires are different, and it's running tubeless right now. It ships with tubes, but running tubeless, you can run these at a little bit of a lower tire pressure and give you a bit more float and traction. You know, it's interesting to look at the different patterns. There's a lot of space between the knobs up front, and it's pretty deep. Yeah. Okay, and then in the rear they're a little bit tighter, and it feels like it's a bit wider. So this is going to dig in and help you steer, and that would better traction.
Yeah, a little bit smoother rolling resistance on the back.
Can we talk a little bit about the geometry on this bike too?
Yeah, all mountain will slacken out the front end a little bit more. It'll have a little bit more stability going downhill. Having the mullet as well slams the bike a little bit further backwards. We don't do super aggressive head tube angles as far as slackness, because we still want the bikes to climb well. And so like these trails, you could easily start getting really floppy if you have, you know, a 65-degree head tube angle. So so we want to make this bike really capable no matter what terrain you're riding. We're not focusing on just the gravity scene or just the cross-country scene.
All mountain.
Exactly.
Right? All that. So yeah, I mean, coming back down here, I mentioned boost up front. We also have boost in the rear with a 12 millimeter thru-axle, 148 millimeter hub spacing. And I say this a lot of times, it's like having a wider axle or hub spacing, the spokes, you get like that sturdier bracing angle. Definitely. Does it also give you more space for having a wide cassette? Because this is like a 12 speed here, right?
You know, from what I understand, the 12 and 11 speed cassettes are the same width. They just got each gear got a little bit tinier. So the biggest thing is rigidity, having a wider stance, and then having the spokes a little bit further apart for a stouter wheel. Yeah,
it's nice. So coming down here, looking at the derailleur, Shimano XTR, and it does have that clutch, so you can engage that, and it just tightens it up so that the chain won't be bouncing all over the place. If it does bounce down, we do have this nice plastic slap guard. It's going to protect this paint. Beautiful, almost like a rust metallic orange with black accents, and you see a lot of black parts on e-bikes because, you know, like battery cover, and up here we get the fender and the fork and everything, but the wires tend to blend in a little bit more, and there are additional wires coming from, you know, the electronics, the displays and stuff like that. So I love that it's internally routed right there. If we come over to this side, you can actually see that there's some internal routing down through this stem. And Chris, can you tell me a little bit about this part again?
Yeah, so this is SP Connect, a partner brand of ours, and they make some great mobile solutions, so you can just easily click on, and then this is actually strong enough.
Oh my gosh, to like lift the whole bike.
Yeah,
that's crazy. So you know, pretty neat to see that just right out of the box. Another cool accessory here is these Monkey Link magnetic reflectors. They just pop off and on like that. And if we come over here, they sell these optional lights that run off of that 750 watt-hour battery pack. I really like that, front and rear. They even have a fender with a light integrated. So a lot of cool like e-bike specific stuff. I do have one complaint about the LED remote here. It feels more like a missed opportunity. There's a little USB-C port on the bottom. You can see there's a little wrench icon with the rubber flap, and that's only for diagnostics. And I wish that it actually could power a phone or other portable electronic, because we have such a high capacity battery. They have the smartphone app, it's right there. You know, there are so many solutions like a battery backpack and everything, but if you've got that special twist lock case, then you don't have a battery there either. Maybe it's not a big deal, especially on a mountain bike where maybe you're not using GPS, you're enjoying the sights and you're trying to protect your phone. But I do kind of wish that Bosch had, you know, maybe they put a USB port here or something so you can power your phone. That would make a lot of sense to me. I got a little carried away though. I want to finish with the cassette down here. So this is 10 to 51 tooth, really widespread, and that super big 51 tooth sprocket is going to be great for starting and climbing and handling just, you know, a heavier bike in this steeper terrain. Narrow, wide chainring up front from E13, and we do have a plastic guide as well, so that's going to keep it from bouncing off. It's going to lock in. It's really solid. 165 millimeter E13 crank arms, and then these plastic platform pedals from BULLS that are decent. I could see myself replacing those with, like, you know, Welgo has some magnesium pedals with the adjustable pins. A lot of good options out there, and I love that they've got the bottle cage mounting point right there on the down tube, where they use it for a folding lock or a bottle or some other accessory. In the start of this review, I talked a little bit about the suspension, and it's highly adjustable. So we have high speed compression and low speed compression, as well as just the air pressure. This is an air fork. And then we have rebound. And on the rear, we have sort of like low, medium, high in terms of firmness and rebound as well. Can you say anything else about these parts from SR Suntour?
Yeah, these are the top shelf stuff from SR Suntour. They're bomb proof. They have some UCI Worlds victories under them.
Wow.
Mega Avalanche victories, that kind of stuff. So they're plenty stout and plush. I've really enjoyed them.
They've handled well, and I really like the little plastic fender. I think I keep calling that out because to me it's pretty useful, and it's just built in. It's solid. You don't have to use zip ties and stuff. We've got locking, pretty flat rubber grips. The brakes, again, 203 millimeters front and rear, and we actually have quad piston calipers up front and dual piston in the rear. 2-finger levers. You really don't need that as much strength because you have that wider disc, a good mechanical advantage, and also good cooling for those downhill sections. Shimano on this. There's a lot of EMTBs that are running Bosch are just coming with that LED remote. I think that makes sense because the bike sort of, it looks a little stealthier. It almost doesn't look like a mountain bike. And if you wanted, you can use that, and it's going to give you some directions. It can integrate with Strava, Komoot, I think Apple Health as well.
Yeah, definitely. You can tune the bike's motor as well to give varying degrees of output, whether it's your overall effort or your initial start off.
Yeah.
So there's some great features.
Even top speed
Yep.
on this thing. So it starts at, you know, like 19 point whatever, and so you're kind of that class 1 bike, which is permissible on more trails. So being an EMTB, I think that's important to mention. But as soon as you're on the really heavy duty stuff, I would probably take that off and put it in my bag. I want to comment on the motor a little bit more before we get into the battery. I think it's a good choice. The Bosch Performance Line CX has been like top of the line for EMTB. It gives you 85 Newton meters of torque, and it's measuring your rear wheel speed with a really hidden, like, integrated magnet. It's not as easy to see right now because we're just leaning the bike up against this rock. But I want to point out that the bike does have provision for kickstand. It's like a 20 millimeter bolt spacing down there. You could add that if you wanted to. Most of the BULLS bike have that, which is really great. But having that magnet integrated, just kind of hidden, it's better protected. And I appreciate that. It used to have like a little spoke magnet and a sensor there that could get muddy and get bumped out of position, and you'd get like a read error. So that seems like a big upgrade. If we look at the motor casing down here, this is measuring pedal cadence and pedal torque, so how hard you're pushing, and that really comes into play when you're on dynamic terrain and you want to be very precise. You don't want to accidentally accelerate off the trail and, you know, have an issue and get into a rut. That this is really precision oriented, and I appreciate that, especially with some of the adjustments that you can make on pedal assist that Chris was talking about with that ebike Flow app, and even the EMTB ride mode where it's measuring that pedal torque a little bit more. It's fantastic. You'll hear it a little bit later on the rides, but you can hear the motor a little bit, but it's just very smooth and dynamic, and it's measuring those 3 signals over 1,000 times per second. And there's even some measurement for like shift detection. So if the Bosch controller senses a change in torque and pressure from the derailleur, it eases off a little bit, the motor power, so that you're not gonna bend the teeth on this or break your chain. I think it's, you know, you still want to ease off physically, just like you would on an acoustic bike, but it's nice that the motor is trying to be so smart. Got a cellular saddle up here, Vivo, so it's kind of Bulls branded, and then a dropper seat post. Is this a Limotech? It's like the Alpha 1?
Correct.
Yeah.
Varying degrees of travel based on size.
That's right. So it's like spec to fit the different frame size. We've got a tapered steer tube, 1.1 to 1.5 inches back here, 30.9 millimeter post. So there's lots of options if you wanted to change or upgrade that at some point. To me, this is top of the line, but I want to give you all the specs and everything. Being able to go into a dealer is another point I want to make. You know, Bulls has, what is it, over 200 dealers in North America at this point?
One right down the hill even in Laguna Beach.
That's fantastic. Yeah, come visit Laguna Beach for sure and bring a bike up here. It's a blast. But you've also got this, like, it's kind of a shared warranty of like 2-year comprehensive, and I say shared because that's what Bosch offers.
Correct.
And a lot of this stuff, it's like you got the motor, you got the battery, the display, so that's all coming from Bosch.
Shimano XTR is 3-year warranty. Our frames are 5-year warranty.
Pretty fantastic. And Bulls has been around since what, like 1997?
Right around there, yeah. We've been in the US since 2015.
That's fantastic. Yeah, so that's some of the background if you're not as familiar with the company. So the battery pack, the weight is low and center on the frame, but it is a lot of weight. It's 9.4 pounds for that high capacity battery. And I like that you can charge it and just kind of leave it in the frame. You can see the charging port is here on the left side of the frame. It's up high. A lot of times I'll see these charging ports way down here, and they're right in the path of that crank arm. It's just harder to get to. You have to bend down. Now, we don't have a kickstand on this bike, and I think for most people that's going to be how they ride it, because you don't want the kickstand bouncing around. But then it's a little problematic, like, do I lean this against the wall and try to plug it in? And a lot of times you leaning the bike towards the brakes because you don't want to expose the derailleur. So you always lean the bike to the left side. That's sort of best practices. But if that's where the charging port is, it's just harder to get to. And the bike, again, you know, 60 pounds, it's heavy. I kind of wish that the charge port was right here. I've seen some other Bulls e-bikes where it is right there. But at least the locking core is right here. So they have an ABIS key set. It's key to like, so you could match it to a folding lock if you wanted to. It's just a higher quality key set. And then we have this black plastic cover. There's a little tab down here. We release it. You can see the PowerTube 750 right there. This is less than half a pound. It's just, you know, it is color matched here, but if you lost this or something, I feel like it'd be easier and less expensive to replace. But this does not lock to the frame. And you actually have to be intentional about making sure this tab is set. It does have a spring, but you just don't want to lose this while you're riding. And if we were taking the battery completely off, you know, it's kind of a two-hand job. And you have to use the key when you take it out, and you have to support the weight of it. And then when you're getting it back in, you have to use the key again to sort of open the latch for it to really, you know, set into place. So for me, this takes a little bit more effort. You have to be more intentional. This is not a comment on Bulls necessarily. I think most of the Bosch PowerTubes that I've seen require that extra step. So I think that's a pretty good look over. Chris, do you feel like I've missed anything? You want to call anything else out?
This is our top of the line bike. It's at a great price point. You're definitely getting your money's worth out of a bike like this if you want something that you can take everywhere. I've really enjoyed riding and even racing it.
Oh, really? Yep. Where did you race at?
At Sea Otter. I took first place in my age class last year.
Whoa,
so hoping to do it again in a couple months.
Let's dive into the display panel here for a second. So, you know, again, we probably wouldn't have the phone out all the time. It's nice that you can connect this, and it just uses like Bluetooth low energy. Is that right? Okay, so most of the time you'd be dealing with the LED remote right here. Very reachable, but on its own, it kind of has extra buttons you don't need. If you wanted, instead of the phone, you could also have a Kiox 300, an e-bike specific display from Bosch. You'd have to pay extra for that. So on its own, this LED remote, it's got like a little light sensor up top, a power button, and if we press that, I'm going to use my shadow here. You see the little light dance going on. We've got 5 different rectangles, and if they were all blue, that would be 100%. The top one is white, which means, well, it's half of a block, basically. So you have 10% increments on charge level, which is better than nothing. The app, it gives you the actual percentage, like 1% increments, which is much more precise, so 82%. That's cool to see. And then if we press the plus or the minus buttons here, you get higher and lower levels of assist. So the lowest is Eco, the highest is Turbo, and Eco and Turbo are the two that we could adjust. So we have custom riding modes in Turbo and Eco here. I think we can change the units. You can do GPS with the map. I mean, there's a lot of different features in the app, and you've talked about how often Bosch is upgrading this and sending out new updates.
Yeah, consistently. They're always adding new third-party integrations. They're continuing to build up their locking solutions.
Oh yeah,
as well.
Don't forget that. This
Yep.
geofencing, right?
Yeah, so right now there's a basic geofence that comes on. If you walk away with your phone and break Bluetooth, it will keep the motor from turning back on until you get your phone back in the area.
Nice.
And they're also coming up with even more extensive versions as well as add-ons.
So that's cool. That's part of like being in the Bosch ecosystem. I think you can even update your bike's firmware with the app, the eBike Flow app.
Over the air.
So that's another upgrade. So if you've had an older Bosch bike, you might be familiar with the eBike Connect app. It's totally separate app. So there's two different ecosystems, not cross-compatible, including the charger. I should mention that. I showed you the charging port on the bike, but this is the Smart System 4-amp charger. Weighs like 1.6 pounds. It's got a removable wall plug and a proprietary interface that's pretty sturdy with like separated pins and stuff. I like it. I think this is a win for sure, and having 4 amps is going to be a little faster for such a high capacity battery. So back to the display, you're really only using plus and minus, and then if you hold the plus button, it would activate those optional Monkey Link lights, and if you hold the minus button, it starts walk mode. I also want to call it the XTR trigger shifters down here. You can push or you can pull with your pointer finger there, multi-shift. Yeah, it's quick. It's got like a rubberized texture. It feels really premium. Here's our dropper post lever on the left. Yeah, beautiful bike, high-end components and stuff. So let's just go out and take it for a ride. So this is EMTB mode. I love how dynamic it is. You know, if you're gentle with it, it doesn't get carried away. It can be really smooth and light, or take off. Very stable with the bigger tires and that lower attack angle here. Nice. Yeah, I can appreciate that larger front wheel, especially going over all these routes and just kind of washed out.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Pretty. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be interesting to climb back up. It's pretty steep.
Yeah, I think it'll do just fine though. Yeah. That starts looking a little bit rougher for the way back.
Yeah.
But,
here comes Chris. Nice. Speeding up the hill. Gotta love that. Nice one, man.
Thanks. I put higher compression on the back, and that definitely kept the bottom end up, so it wasn't didn't have to be fully like that on the top.
Oh, so you weren't getting like this rear bobbing?
Yeah, the bob was gone.
Nice, good suggestion.
Whew, that's a good heart rate now.
Yeah, I feel ya. Well guys, that is the BULLS COPPERHEAD EVO AM4 750 with the Bosch Smart System. Really cool to see top shelf stuff with Chris, getting some feedback, and I kind of learn, you know, when we do these reviews. It's cool to see the mullet setup. I've seen a couple other companies do that, and there are some trade-offs, you know. You got two different tire sizes to deal with, but having ridden this over some of the roads and stuff here and the washboard, it was great. It was nice to have the 29ers. For the full written review, check out ElectricBikeReview.com. I measure this meticulously by hand, and there's also a comparison tool. So you could look at this compared to some of the other all-mountain models from other companies. There's forums, there's comments. You can see what people think about the Monkey Link stuff or other good accessories. And yeah, this is a free review. Aside from some hotel help and Chris being generous and taking us to such a cool spot, my goal is just to be objective, help you out. Love you guys, ride safe. We'll see you next time.